RealAgriculture.com's coverage of Canada's Outdoor Farm Show 2012 is brought to you by Pride Seeds, High Stick NT, and SoybeanSchool.com.
So we've got here a manure tanker, liquid manure tanker, that we've added a toolbar to, and we're trying low disturbance shallow injection technology. That's the fancy name for it. But really what we're trying to do is give an opportunity for producers to apply manure at a whole bunch of different times in the rotation. Generally, there's been a splash plate, the manure goes on as quickly as possible, late in the fall, after wheat, or in the spring before planting, often when the soil conditions aren't at their best. So here we've got a toolbar that hopefully will allow improved uniformity, because we're applying it in this case about every 10 to 12 inches apart at a specific rate, and then all through the spread pattern, or the spread width. And it gives the opportunity to apply manure into spring wheat, or like a spring application into winter wheat, I mean. It allows for application after forages, and that's one of the things we're testing is can we inject it, or do we still need to surface apply it? We can apply manure before corn if the soil conditions are good, or we can apply manure after the corn's been planted, but before it's beyond the 6-leaf stage, and then right on the edges of the 2 rows. No, I didn't say that right. Right between, like the corn would be right in between these 2 rows. We can apply it after soybeans have been planted. We can apply manure after forages, like I said. We can apply it into pastures, in pasture rotations, so after the cattle have gone out, inject some liquid manure, and then hopefully next round they're back on again. We can potentially, after wheat harvest, mix the cover crops into the manure and then plant them with the manure. That's one of the things that we're trying to test. So what we're trying to do with a piece of equipment, a toolbar like this, is to give more opportunities for manure application into growing crops, and that's very much the European style. And the other thing that we're trying to do is improve that uniformity so that the liquid manure is treated more like a fertilizer. And this is just a new test model. We are trying one of the European models where it's every 7-inch spacing, but that's great for pasture and for forage crops. But when it comes to worked fields or corn crops, there just isn't enough clearance, and so we thought, okay, well, let's try something that's a little bit wider, 10-12-inch spacings, and see if we can make it work, the clearance work a little bit better with those. So if we're putting on 4,000 gallons per acre, by having them into the various rows, we're decreasing the amount that's in every row, but again, it's more uniformly spaced. If you look at the way that this toolbar has been set up, you'll notice that there are various types of coulters. We're trying to see in forages and a little bit into pastures and wheat, is there a coulter that does too much damage to the forages or to the crop? Is there one that does just the right amount of injection and does that really fast infiltration of the liquid manure? Because it's shallow injection, we're not going to get full coverage, we're still going to have a little bit of that manure showing, but within a couple minutes it's usually been infiltrated into the soil. There will be differences depending on what type of coulter we use. Those are some of the things that are being evaluated. The other thing that I think is a benefit is if it's too wet to inject or to have the coulters working through the soil, the coulters can be raised, and then these shoes will still apply that manure very close to the ground, and so you're not going to get the spray action that you would with a splash plate. You'll still get better uniformity. So one of the things that we're evaluating with the coulters is we're looking at nitrogen loss. And so when we apply that manure, we're always looking at how much ammonia do we lose, because the highest losses are going to be during those growing season, hot, warm sunny days when it's fairly dry. And so what we do is, there's no decimeter tube here. That's too bad. Here there is. So what we do is we put decimeter tubes, and a decimeter tube is just a little tube like this. It's all pink, and as it's exposed to ammonia, it turns yellow. And so we can evaluate the different ammonia losses in our different trials to see which one works the best. And it gets covered. It has holes in the blue box so that the wind can still go through, so that we're simulating real conditions. So the 3 coulters that were tested here so far, wavy coulter, straight coulter, and just a normal spreader plate, we looked at that ammonia loss and then just comparing them on a per treatment basis. And in this case, the wavy coulter, not surprisingly, did the best job of incorporating that manure and reducing the ammonia loss. So if it's in a forage crop, that probably doesn't matter as much because you've got the alfalfa that doesn't really need the nitrogen. But in a corn crop or in a crop that needs that nitrogen, you want to maximize the amount of nitrogen that is utilized. And of course, we want to reduce the losses as much as possible.